Awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much to everybody who's already shared. I have been blown away by how beautiful and varied everybody's words have been. So thank you so much for that. I've put together a series of poems on the theme of connection and disconnection this evening. So I'm going to go right ahead with the first one. This first one is a straightforward love poem, and it's also about space. So it's called Starstruck. Sometimes I get the feeling maybe we first met in space, because we're both stars, our constellations shifting into place. The patterns in this cosmos match the freckles on your face, but it's your generosity that helps me keep my faith. See, infinity's indelible, and that's intimidating. But I would wait forever if you chose to keep me waiting. We're starstruck, star-crossed, starry-eyed, you'll get my 5-star rating. But you're not a mass of heat and gas, that's not what I've been saying. Instead, I think you're awesome. You're a blazing supernova. And like a NASA scientist, I've tried to get to know you. Now, gravity and love have got us spinning ever closer. This voyage has been wonderful, and it's still far from over. I've navigated oceans on the strength of your advice, called you unbelievable maybe once or twice. And though I know astrology's a little imprecise, our fate feels universal, like a starry winter's night. You're celestial perfection, and to me, you're luminous. If Van Gogh were alive, he'd want to paint the two of us. So sorry, but you're stuck with me, for better or for worse. And I'll be your observatory if you be my universe. Thank you. Oh, it always feels better once you've done the first poem and got it out of the way. We're in the clear now. We're on to poems. So that first poem was a more straightforward piece about romantic love. So now I want to talk about maybe the decidedly less romantic parts of love. This poem is called Bad Kisser. When we first met, I found you quite charming, but that impression began to cave in the first time that I let you kiss me and you licked me from forehead to chin. I know that you weren't great with women. Now I finally understand why. Being able to suck on my tonsils is not something I want in a guy. I still feel the pang of revulsion when I think of your molars on mine. The clash of enamel connecting sends chills to the base of my spine. I know you were just keen to please me, but your technique was really bizarre. You formed a tight seal around my head holes. It's not supposed to be like CPR. In order to give you some feedback, please know that I'm not one to quibble, but we women don't like to be moistened with silvery trails of dribble. Not that it wasn't impressive, the incredible girth of your tongue, but the ravenous way that you wield it, you damn nearly punctured my lung. But now that you're gone, I feel lonely. Normal kisses just don't fill the space. Turns out that though I protested, I want you to suck on my face. I saw you gnawing the tonsils of some girl in the precinct by Iceland today, and I know for a fact that I've lost you, the bad kisser who slipped clean away. Thank you. So I wanted to share some sonnets actually with you next. I'm part of a writing collective in the UK called 28 Sonnets Later. And what we do and what we've done for the past 10 years is every February, myself and a group of other writers from across the UK, we challenge each other to write 28 sonnets over the course of 28 days in February. It's a really fun challenge. And obviously we're starting again from this time next week for the 1st of February. But I wanted to share a couple of sonnets from last year's project, when we wrote about creation and apocalypse myths from around the world. There's a huge amount of inspiration there if you ever get stuck for something to write a poem about. This first sonnet is about the Maori mythology surrounding the beginning of the world. So in Maori mythology, at the beginning of the world, the sky and the earth embraced so tightly that not even time or light could pass between them. And it was only their children, when their children separated them, that the world as we know it came to be formed. I thought that was really bloody romantic, actually. So I wrote this poem about that, and it's called Between Our Hips. Our corresponding shapes are so aligned, no light or time may slip between our hips. Our limbs and vital spirits intertwined, I taste your breath like salt air on my lips. Our puzzle pattern bodies interlace as eons pass and we maintain our hold. A beautiful perennial embrace, a cosmic cuddle keeping out the cold. But each beginning must foretell its end, and even ecstasy is mutable. Despite our fealty, we must both transcend and find positions less inscrutable. Although it hurts to be apart, we'll try. I'll be the earth and you can be the sky. And my second sonnet is inspired by Slavic creation myths. A lot of Slavic creation myths include different stories about creation of the world from dismemberment. And in those, a god or a divine being is cut up into sections, and those sections sort of become, say, the arms become the mountains, the hair becomes the sea, and this sort of creation through destruction. I wanted to write about that. So this sonnet ended up being about creation and destruction as opposing and complementary forces. And it's called Creation with an Axe. A blazing, sanguinary wound of light, this reddish star, our sun, a brutal breach. The viscera of moonlight bleeds through night and stains the sky with triumphs out of reach. While shoulder blade tectonics move beneath the sinew soil of slowly shifting dunes, creation swings its axe and grinds its teeth and softly hums an ever-changing tune. A god can give their body to the earth, their bones transferred to sediment and scree. A violent world demands a violent birth. The axe must bite the bark to fell the tree. A god can give their body to the earth. A violent world demands a violent birth. Thank you. And I'll put the link to the 28 Sonnets Later website in the chat after this. So if you're interested or if you're curious, you can read the back catalogue or read along with us when we start writing sonnets again next week. We're going to take a slightly sort of left turn now. This next one is a poem that was commissioned by a poetry magazine that talks about reproductive health and reproductive issues. And this poem particularly is about feeling disconnected. And there's a content note in this poem for infertility and miscarriage. So if those are things that you don't want to hear about right now or that you're particularly sensitive over, please do feel free to step away from the screen for a few minutes or mute yourself. I'm not going to be offended if you do that. But if you're still here, this poem is called Strawberry Jam. Again, after weeks of waiting, these clenched fist cramps signal failure. Thick clots caught on cotton, red as dashed hope. Another nameless Eden razed to the ground. The ancient Greeks believed that all wombs wander, restless and untethered, until weighed down with skinned stones or bullet holes, or seeds planted in fresh soil. Nothing seems to grow here, only blood and rust. Still, there are jars of jam in the pantry, flowers on the mantel. Summer isn't over yet. Things could always be worse. There are no pain receptors in the brain, which means that each tiny shadow wanders, getting lodged in my throat, manifesting as fists twisting wistfully with each new moon. Another month, another almost stained red. Soon I will run out of strawberry jam, switch to something more bitter as school lunchboxes linger in cupboards, uncertain, unused. Thank you. This next poem is another piece about feeling disconnected, and this one is a golden shovel form, and it's based on a Mary Oliver poem, which is called The Uses of Sorrow. So the entire Mary Oliver poem reads, "Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift." And if you're not familiar with the golden shovel form, it's similar to an acrostic, only each of the words from your quote form the end word of the lines in your poem. So I wonder if you can find them all in this poem. It is called Becalmed. I wanted to be the kind of someone who could always fix things. I clung to my competency like hull-side barnacles. To be loved, you must be good enough. And I was, once. Back when the sight of the sea still gave me chills. Now, I don't know what will become of me. I am a storm-sunk schooner rigging unraveling. I am a boatyard ransacked by vandals, and I can't find the box where I stored my secrets. I am so full of nothings, regretful, ghostly half-recollections, fearful of everything I can no longer do. Forgetting is a kind of darkness, a mist that thickens slowly by degrees. It is so much harder to navigate when the stars are extinguished. It took me so long to realize what was happening to me. On the journeys between the kettle and the sofa, years passed. Now I am left alone to make catalogues of the missing parts. Understand this. There is no way that I can know what is absent. A blank space is this unmarked page in my logbook, a fog too heavy to ever lift again. If I was still a sailing man, then maybe I could endure this forecast as a storm passing. But today, it feels more like penance than a gift. Thank you. I've got two more for you, and we're going to go a little bit more cheerful, I think, to end on. I didn't want to dwell too long on those feelings of disconnection, although they are part of the human condition. So they do need to be examined and talked about, certainly. But I think in these uncertain times, hope is probably the most radical act of all. So this is a poem about that. This poem is a line palindrome poem, which means that you can read it forwards and it will mean one thing. And hopefully when I read it backwards, it means something different. We'll see. This poem is called Humanity. This is humanity. Sit back and let everything fall apart. It is ridiculous to assume we would want to help people we don't even know. We will go out of our way to seal ourselves off from our problems. We will never think about others before ourselves. We can't contemplate the future, so we've stopped trying. We can't imagine a world where there is hope. There is hope. We can't imagine a world where we've stopped trying. We can't contemplate the future, so think about others before ourselves. We will never seal ourselves off from our problems. We will go out of our way to help people we don't even know. It is ridiculous to assume we would want to sit back and let everything fall apart. This is humanity. Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. As I say, I've really enjoyed being a part of this event, and I'd really like to come back again. So hopefully I will see you all again. If you've enjoyed what I've done this evening and you'd like to perhaps read more of my work, I have a few different poetry books that are published at the moment. And again, I will drop a link in the chat after this if you'd like to have a little look and think about perhaps purchasing those. That would be super. I'm going to finish on another hopeful poem for you. Whenever I think about connection, I always think about the power of music to connect us. A lot of my writing includes writing about music and connection. So this poem is called More Than Music. Back when the chemist sold records, we knew music was the best medicine, the natural remedy of melodies played on record players and tape decks, bedrooms and basements bristling with beats that felt like balm for messy teenage lives, the storm before the calm. Back when we held songs in our palms, we played each cassette until the tape snapped, mapped our lives through CDs we made ourselves, filled shelves with every emotion we couldn't quite express, the immeasurable endlessness of being alive, expressed in 4/4 time. We read lyrics like incantations, confirmation that we were never quite alone, and we sung every word as if it were our own. Our best kept secret bands we shared sparingly, these earthquake, lunch break, mixtape heartbreaks, reviving us, repairing me. The words were spells we cast to guide ourselves through, leading you to me and me back to you. And when our local venues sold good times, we spent Fridays living a better life. Pressed between bodies, surrounded by noise, our joy magnified by this moment in time. Sweet sweat and spilt beer, whiskey and lime, and the sense of being sonorous, this new paradigm. The smoke in our hair and the bass in our bones, feeling like we've made it, like we've finally come home. There's more to this than music, more than instruments and noise. It's empathy and mystery, it's freedom and it's choice, it's magic and it's medicine, it's acceptance and escape, integrity and anarchy on record and on tape. Community through unity when we play and when we sing. There's more to this than music, and the music's everything. Thank you so much.